go. It's just the way the South Hill student section mocked it. Aram
just the way they mocked
around
it.
into his seat.
Right.
All right.
They mocked this. There we go. Anyways, welcome to Prep Extra Live, another impromptu version of it. That's what happens in the playoffs. We assume a lot of you are on your lunch hour right now, or even preparing your Thanksgiving meals, getting the jump on something. And that's why we're here, to keep you entertained. We're all back from Ferguson, and here we are, ready to talk about the semifinals of the football playoffs. It's dwindling down, guys, but I will say this: there's more teams alive at this point of the playoffs than what I remember in recent years.
Yeah,
usually we have 2 or 3. This year, boy, I mean, we have we have 4 in one division.
And that has to do with the division alignments.
Yeah,
I mean,
3 in one division.
In the Tribune area alone, some of our traditional area heavyweights. I mean, you've got Charter Oak still alive, Los Altos. I mean, these schools, Charter Oak 5 championships, Los Altos 7. You've got Bonita still going. Northview, first trip to, they're trying to get their first trip to the final since 1988. Is that right?
87.
87. Wow.
And it's their first trip to the semi since 88. They lost to El Rancho.
Okay.
I thought it was 97.
No, it's been a long time. No, I mean, I remember that. I was in high school.
Yeah.
I was in high school when
I hope
Northview.
you proofread my story today, because I believe Marcel Perez said that he was on the last team to go to the semis.
Okay.
And that was 97.
Okay.
Well,
we've already got a discrepancy. Is it 87 or 97? Whatever it is, it's been a long time.
I think he had said
that might have been Todd
years.
Quincy's team. Didn't he go deep in the playoffs?
17 years. I don't think he was the coach of that. I think it was Gano, if I'm not mistaken. Or, no, maybe Gano wasn't already.
It was probably Podley then.
Okay, Podley. Okay.
God, the legends who have coached at Northview: Gano, Podley,
Quincy.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start at the very top. Of course, Pac-5. We still have a team in there. Go figure. Bishop of Mott going to Corona Centennial. This game's at 7:30 on Friday night. We imagine there's going to be some sort of prep zone coverage of this one.
It'll be live on the prep zone, 7:30 start.
All right, so fans that don't want to head east and take it in, I guess they could do that, or they could follow us. Mike the cousin, Freddie will be out there.
Is Mike the cousin back?
Yeah, he's back from Jamaica. He's back today, so I'll be getting in touch with him. But he knows what's been going on. He was following along.
Yeah, Tom Kiss, Courtney Ponce, they'll be out there doing the highlights of this show. Let's get Let's get right into it. This Almont run continues on. Last week they beat J. Sarah, but now they face a Corona Centennial team that, in theory, at full strength, it's just a machine offensively. But the problem is, Freddie, we're not sure they're going to be full strength.
Well, they're missing their running back who had
J.J. Taylor?
J.J. Taylor, who had his appendix removed. They're also missing one of their receivers, a guy who's going to Cal.
Yeah, Grayson Bank.
Yeah, he broke his collarbone last week. 2 really key pieces. I talked to Coach Steve Haggerty about that this morning, though. He says, hey, look, a team like this, they've got so much talent that their offense stays the same. It's really a plug-and-play. They've got athletes. They can step in and do the job. So, although they're missing key players, he's pretty confident that this is the kind of team that is just going to put someone right in and it'll be business as usual.
Right. Then you talk about Bishop of Mott. Ryder Ruiz, we're expecting to be the quarterback again this week. There was some doubt about, who would be the QB with Damian Garcia back and healthy. Yeah. Last week, Ryder got the start. Ryder did well.
I was going to say, well, if you believe Steve Haggerty on this, and I talked to him again this morning, I said it's going to be Ryder Ruiz this week, right? He's got it 4 straight.
Okay.
You made your decision last week. He said, no, every week with these 2 is a quarterback competition, and the one who has a better week, the one who looks better, sharper, more prepared in practice, is the one who's going to start on Friday.
Right.
Now, is that him posturing? Is that him?
Keeping
gamesmanship?
Is that
Probably.
him keeping both guys?
I would be shocked if Ryder Ruiz didn't start. No.
Is that him keeping both guys at the school?
Are both guys getting the same amount of reps? Is that what is he saying? And then they just make a decision
in practice? Well,
yeah.
He's saying both guys have an opportunity to start on Friday. Wow. They're going to look at both of them.
If Ryder doesn't start on Friday, I'd be really shocked.
Yeah, I'd be shocked too.
Anyways, this Bishop of Mott team absolutely on a roll. It's well documented. I mean, I think the win streak now 7 games.
7 games.
Yeah. If you're Corona Centennial and you're not at full strength, I know they have a lot of talent in the program, but at this point of the season, I don't think it's plug and play anymore. I mean, I think you need the guy that scored 26 touchdowns this season in Taylor, your second leading receiver in Bankhead. You're risking a lot when you don't have this. And let's remember, this is Corona Centennial's first year in the Pac-5. You know, previously they were a inland division. And I just don't think, guys, maybe you can correct me, that you know, you can go into a game like that with these kinds of questions and expect to win, not against a team like Amat that's this hot.
Yeah. Well, especially in the semifinals. And there's a reason why those guys are starting and why they have so much hype around them is because they're really good. And even though they may have players who are ready to move up and move into that role, they haven't experienced the game at that speed against those type of athletes. Well, so that would be a concern.
They looked okay last week without their running back against Modern Day, winning 20-7 to 24. And this is a team you got to remember. They took on the number one team in the country, Bishop Gorman in Nevada, earlier in the year, and they lost that game by only 1 point. And the other game they lost was to Modern Day. They avenged that. It's a team averaging 45 points a game. Coach Haggerty says, you know, outside of St. John Bosco probably, this is the most explosive offensive team in the division. Think about Bishop Amat. Since they started 2-3, since they lost those 2 straight games, that was a time when Anthony Camargo, their big linebacker, went full-time linebacker, and Toriano Sweet took over. They've gone 7-0, Aram, in that span, and Amat hasn't given up more than 24 points in any of those games during that stretch. I mean, it's really, they're playing as defense as well as anyone in the division, and it's really going to be how their defense matches up against the Centennial team. I mean, Coach Haggard even said, I don't know if we can stop them, but we're going to try and slow them down. And will they slow them down enough to outscore them? I really think Bishop Amat can probably score. They're capable of scoring 40 or 50 points. If you look at that Sarah game, that was a 68-64 game in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, Sarah put up 64 points on them. Sarah could only score 14 against Bishop Amat. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a game. Amat's defense is going to have to hold this team to 30 points, 35. I think to have a chance to outscore them.
I agree. I just don't know, what the capability of Corona Centennial's attack is going to be without these key, 2 players. And like you said about Amat, they're playing defense well. The special teams is doing well with Arcanado being a fantastic kick returner. Like I said before, this team just has a synergy right now that all good teams have when they're on a roll. There's a synergy between the offense and the defense and the special teams in there as well. They're all feeding off each other. I don't want to do this. I don't want to pick Bishop Amat because when I pick against them, good things seem to happen. And now that I pick them, what's going to happen? But I just don't see any other pick in the game besides Bishop Amat, given the questions that Centennial has. So I'm taking Amat. What do you guys?
Well, I was actually one before the division started when we put on our brackets. Remember, I had Centennial beating Modern Day, which they did, and beating Bishop Amat getting the final. I was making the argument they're probably going to be too athletic, too many weapons. Given, though, that they lost these 2 guys, given how well Bishop Amat looked last week against J. Sarah, and you talked about synergy, Aram. I mean, this team is together as much as I've seen a football team together, fighting for each other. I mean, the after the game, when they go over to the student section and they do their little chants, I had it on video this week. I mean, this team really gets it. They're really playing team football, and I like them winning this game and going for their first championship since 1995. There used to be a guy on our blog who would come on all the time. His moniker was not since 1995. He'd make fun of them because they never got back there. They get their chance on Friday, and I think they do it.
Yeah, I have to lean with the like Aram said, with the injuries to those 2 key players and the way Amat has been playing, like you said, these last 7 games. I saw him against Notre Dame, and they're just clicking so much offensively. And when you play with that type of confidence, it's tough to stop. I mean, because you always think that you can make a play, and that's what they're doing. And like I said, with Centennial kind of a little bit wounded right now, I think the pick has to be Amat.
Yeah, and Steve, I know you're a big practicing Catholic. You'd be proud. You'd kind of like watching them walk out. They hold the cross, and they all come out behind it, led by Haggerty. That's the kind of thing that probably gets someone like you a little emotional watching. So here we go.
Okay.
All right. So we're all
trying to get Stevie fired up.
Oh, I am fired up. It's always good when
That's a good way to do it, Fred.
I think it's always good when a program like Amat with so much history and winning tradition is back in these type of games.
Yeah, and look, they're doing it their way.
They're doing
which is
it their
important.
way.
I mean, their way, the Haggerty way. You coach them up, you bring them up through the program. This is a
cross your fingers way.
This is a satisfying moment for them for sure.
Cross your fingers that the good class comes.
Yeah. And it's come. It'll be here next year too.
Yeah, it will. And I heard there's more on the way.
Yeah. This is the kind of thing that gets it going, though, doesn't it, Aram? Sometimes when you win and people go and they see what it's about and they see the way these. This is what gets guys to move over there.
It does. Yeah. It probably doesn't help though. It's funny that it happens in the same season that you may have a Los Altos Charter Oak final. So, so it's like, hey, you could still come here too and have success. But obviously it certainly cannot help business or hurt business. Anyways, we'll move on to the Southeast Division. This is a game that little Stevie R will be at. This is at Glendale High School on Friday night. Lucerna, yes, they're still around. Going to Crescenta Valley, undefeated 12-0. That game is at Glendale High School, and this game has gone from being 7:30 to 7, now back to 7:30, Stevie, because this will be on the Prep Zone. And good, I wrote this today. Good for these two teams getting the exposure that they usually don't get. So good for them. This one's a tough one. I mean, I don't know. I thought Crescenta Valley's a little too finesse for this division. I did think crazy things could happen in this division. And they have, and yet here they are. And Lucerna, on the other hand, you got to really give Margarito Beltran credit. I mean, this is, what do we say, 5th straight year in the semifinals.
Yeah. And he was telling me,
different quarterback.
Well, he was telling me it goes back. They had one bad year before this 5-year run.
Yeah.
And the 2 year, but the 2 years before that, they went to the quarters.
Right.
So 7 out of the 8 years, they've gone to at least the quarters, and 5 semifinal appearances and 3 finals and 1 championship.
They're trying to get to their 4th straight final. Look, when you talk about Beltran, I think he's established himself every bit as much as, when you think of the coaches over here, whether it would have been Bogan, Majori, you go down the line, Lou Farrar, Coach Gano. I mean, he's in that company of coaches with what he's done over there. And look, I just think that their players, even though this is a year, Frankie football has graduated. And you thought, last year when they finally won it, Frankie Palmer's senior year, I think most people probably thought, okay, this is it. Maybe there's going to be a little rebuild. It's going to take some time to get it back to that level. And here they are, a game away from another championship. And that's just the winning breeds winning mentality. Being around it and being used to winning big games late in the playoffs.
Right.
They've got a lot of guys in the program who know how to do that. And Crescenta Valley, this is new for them. I know that they're undefeated, but they're not a team who's been in this spot before. So I have to feel going into Friday, Lucerna's going to be the more comfortable team in this situation.
Well, I talked to Coach Beltran last night, and he put a lot of credit on his kids. He says our kids, you could say there's a secret formula or a magic potion, but he says our kids just work hard. It's good old-fashioned work, and they kind of have a chip on their shoulder of, they won the championship last year, and they don't want to give it up easily, is basically what he said. And he says you don't replace a guy like Frankie Palmer, but Enrique Pacheco has he spelled him the last couple of years, and now this is his moment, and he's taking advantage of it.
Yeah, let's not forget they lost their best offensive weapon. The kid's name escapes me coming into the season. He hasn't even played a down. He was going to be the running back or receiver. I can't remember the kid's name. He was their top offensive returner. He hasn't even played, and yet here they are. Again, this is a team that's played. Rancho Cucamonga beat them. Los Osos beat them. And now St. Francis they've beaten as well. They took St. Francis' undefeated season away. I think they're taking Crescenta Valley's undefeated season away.
I do too.
Why? Because they're physical. And I'm not sure Crescenta Valley likes that. And secondly, they do what they do, and they do what they do well. They don't really, really get away from it. It's a tough offense to stop, Stevie.
Yeah.
It's based out of the wing, but they do a lot of things.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out because they do a lot of deceptive inside.
Right.
And then when they you got to try to stop it, because they're getting 3 to 5 yards, and you try to stop it, and you put too much guys inside, and then they bust it outside.
Yeah.
And then they have receivers. They have deceptive. They have deceptive speed receivers. Who find a way to get open. And Crescenta Valley. I mean, what they've done offensively the last 2 years is impressive, and their defense has stepped up this year. But like you said, I'm not sure. I mean, if St. Francis can't stop what Lucerna does, I'm not sure anyone else in the division can.
Yeah, Crescenta Valley, they've been able to avoid, the superpowers in this division. They didn't play the toughest non-league schedule. I mean, they didn't have to play a Cathedral, they didn't have to play a Tolegian, they never played a St. Francis. Lucerna's going to be the best team that they faced, and I'm buying with Lucerna too. And you look at the bottom half of this draw now with Cathedral out. I mean, who'd have thought that? I think most people thought this was going to be a St. Francis Cathedral rematch. I like Lucerna, and I like their chances even next week if they get in the final. Although, there's something to be said about Downey, who knocked off Cathedral 21-18. That's a pretty good team. They're the San Gabriel Valley League champion. But first things first, I do like Lucerna to get by this game. And you're right, Aram. That'll be knocking off 2 undefeated teams back-to-back. Just another notch on Beltran's belt.
Right. Okay, so we all agree on Lucerna over Crescenta Valley in the Southeast Division. One of the semifinals over there. Now, we can turn to the Central Division where we have local elements in all 2 of the games in the semifinals, and that's fantastic for us. The first one, Los Altos taking on Bonita, and then the second one, Colony going to Charter Oak. Both games set to kick off at 7 p.m. And we're on the verge, if things break right, of a pretty epic final if it's Los Altos against Charter Oak. I mean, it's going to be good any way you slice it, but I mean, just name-wise, wow, imagine if that happened. But before that does, Los Altos has to get through a Bonita team that has made, relatively easy work of its first 2 opponents. And this is an at-large, I guess coin-flipped 4th-place team that is, blown out, the number 4 seed in Kaiser. And then they've, I guess it was a 3 seed, right?
3 seed,
and then they beat West Covina, in a game that they pretty much controlled from start to finish. And Los Altos, I mean, look at them. They haven't been in a close game. I mean, they waxed Monrovia last week, controlled that game. I think they were up, 31-10, 31-7 at one point, something like that, 31-14. And then, the week before that, they took out that red-hot South Hills team with another good performance. Los Altos has the horses, Freddie, along the lines. I mean, that's really the thing. David Jimenez, according to his Twitter, is back as well. I mean, he's one of the better defensive linemen in the area. I tell you, late in the season, this type of line play, it really comes in handy. And Los Altos has it. They're just setting guys like their running back Nevins up for big games because they're able to move guys out of the way. It's just that simple. I don't know if Bonita can stand in front of them and stop all that. I'm sure, they're going to try, but I don't know. I don't know what stops Los Altos at this point because physically they're just that good. I'm not even sure if they got on the field with Charter Oak again that Charter Oak could stop them because, if it's one thing to say, hey, we had the wrong game plan, it's one, that type of thing. But it's another thing to say, hey, we just don't match up at the line of scrimmage with these guys, and right now nobody's doing it. I think Los Altos is in good shape this week. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, it's great when they're a good team. We knew that earlier in the year.
They were number 4 to start the season.
We knew they were a good team. And now it's scary when you get a good team in the playoffs that's hot and has a chip on their shoulder.
Right.
They were able to get the revenge game against Monrovia and totally blow them out.
Right.
And you look at that score, it was 45-35. It was more lopsided than that. I mean, they jumped all over them. I mean, I wasn't surprised they beat Monrovia. I was surprised they manhandled them.
Yeah.
And now you're going to get Bonita with a chance to maybe face Charter Oak in the finals. And like Aram said, that would be another rematch, another opportunity. I just think that everything is in front of them. They're playing so well. Aram mentioned their size. They are physical. They can stack up with anybody. And when they start scoring points, when it gets to the point where physically, you just can't stop what they're doing offensively because they're not going to throw it around all over the place. They're going to run the ball up your throat.
They're just going to give it to Nevins.
And if you can't stop that, we've seen it with West Covina over the years. There's nothing that you can do. But look, Bonita's playing well. Angel Verdugo, they're running the ball, and they're 24-13 over West Covina. That's impressive because West Covina is another team that likes to be physical, and they were able to handle that.
Yeah.
I just think it sets up as a great game.
I
was looking at the Cal Preps projection, and I think it had Bonita winning that game by a point.
That's about right.
It's super close. I mean, it's a super close game to call. We're getting into predictions real quick. I'm taking Los Altos because I like what they did last week over Monrovia.
Right.
And I just think they're the team with a bigger chip on their shoulder, so I won't be surprised at all if Bonita does it. And what a story for these two teams, because Los Altos sneaks in as the third-place team from the Hacienda. And Bonita, like Aram said, they needed a coin flip. They needed a coin flip to really get the at-large spot that made them the at-large. They lose that coin flip. They're like Ayala. They could have been fifth and not even been looked at. But here they are, chance to play for a championship. And that's great for that school because that's a good sports school.
Yeah, I mean, Los Altos is playing with so much confidence. And it's not like all year like they were ever blown out of games. The games they lost were games that they could have won. They just kind of didn't finish. And I think that mantra they've kind of taken a hold of that, and they're finishing these games. They're finishing drives, and like you said, Bonita the last 2 weeks has looked really strong. They struggled in the middle part of the year, but they're playing well too. But I just like the way Los Altos is playing.
It's the desperation of the situation for L.A. I mean, you saw them beat Charter Oak, and then they followed that with the game against West Covina, where West Covina beat them and I think shut them out. And ever since then, they had to win or they weren't going to make the playoffs. They did that. And now, obviously, when you're in the playoffs, you have to win or you go home. They're doing that. It seems that the desperation just brings out the best in them. And now they're sitting. I mean, this is a historic program. One of the biggest traditional winners in the Valley, if not in SoCal. That's sitting on the verge of going back to the finals after being, I don't know, man, really flatlining as a program. When you go back to what happened since Gano left, it's just amazing to see them back in this spot. And the big Los Altos crowds are coming back now, which is great. And it's going to get even bigger now that everyone's in town for Thanksgiving. They're going to bring a big crowd over to Bonita. And it's going to be. It's going to be, and it's great. The winning times are here again. As far as picking the game, if this is going to be, a grinder and, just a in the trenches slugfest, then you got to give me the team with the better guys along the line. And it's not to put down Bonita's line. They've been doing a great job. They handled a physical West Covina team pretty well. But I just think in the end that Los Altos has, probably outside of Bishop Amat, the best line play, defensive and offensive line play combined of anybody in the Valley, and they're going to lean on that. And if that's the kind of game this is going to be, then give me LA to get the job. Plus, I think they come from the better league, being in the Hacienda. So, God, man, we're 3 games in, and we're all three in agreement. We'll see what happens now when we talk about Colony and Charter Oak. This team will, the winner of this game will play the winner of Los Altos Bonita in next Saturday's championship.
And just a side note, Bonita and Los Altos, whoever wins that game will get the designated home game for the CIF championship.
Now, what does that mean? I mean, that
means
anything.
that they will get to either pick the nearby site or play at the school if they can argue that they can accommodate visiting fans.
You think Los Altos could accommodate a final, Stevie?
Absolutely.
With their fan base?
Yeah, absolutely.
Their fan base packed like Home Depot Center in 03.
Yeah.
I mean, packed it.
They're not really worried about their home base. It's the visiting team that you got to accommodate.
Well,
and
if
they've
it's
got a lot
Charter
of
Oak, I don't know. To me, it just seems like if it's LA, it's obvious it's got to be at Mount Sac.
No, because a precedent has already been set. San Dimas hosted a championship last year. Monrovia hosted the championship.
That's not the same thing.
Los Altos holds just about as many.
They also
want to bring in some seats.
Yeah.
They can bring in some seats too.
If it's Bonita, they might go to Citrus.
Bonita. I don't know. They don't have a press box. I hate that.
Citrus College?
No, Bonita doesn't.
No,
so
he means
they
Bonita.
better move.
He means Bonita.
Right. So, I mean, you would think, whatever.
Because these games are on TV.
I think because of the amount of, because we saw Bonita play West Covina in the finals over at Walnut. That would be another decent location. It was crowded. It was packed. There were people standing. Not everyone got a seat, but it was a great environment. Okay, if you want to play over there, I don't know what's happened to Mount Sac as a venue, Fred, but if it's Los Altos and Charter Oak,
what's happened is teams want to take advantage of. What's happened is teams want to take advantage of their opportunity to play a CI championship at home. And as long as they can get away with it, as long as they can argue, they can accommodate it. If I'm a coach, I do the same thing.
Why? Just the gate, the money?
To be at home. You're trying to give your team the best chance to win a championship. I think playing at home where you're comfortable, where you know the surroundings, where your fans enjoy it, why not play it if you can do it?
I'll tell you what, I hope Tom Simmons is, if Los Altos wins, ready to go walk the Los Altos field next Monday.
I'll tell you what. Let's say, let's get into the Charter Oak game. But one thing I fear is you're going to get like a Charter Oak Los Altos Bonita final on a Saturday night in Bishop Amat in the Pac-5 final. Then what do you do? What do we do? How do we do that? I mean, that's one of the biggest. One of the biggest, two biggest games in a long time on the same night. That would suck. Maybe we could convince the Central to play it on Friday night instead, huh?
That would be nice.
We'll bring out our pool
or play at 1 o'clock.
Play at 4 o'clock, I don't know if that would even let us get down there.
We're gonna bring out.
Let's hope that this happens. Anyways. In order for it to happen, Charter Oak's got to take care of business against a Colony team that's the number 1 ranked team in the Central Division. Yes, their quarterback, their original quarterback is down, but the backup, this kid Johnson, has come in and he's done just fine. Big Lou saying Colony has to be the favorite in this game because Big Lou's saying, look at them, they're the number 1 seed. We were number 1 in our league and they didn't seed us at all. We're the underdog in this game. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Colony has some really talented skill guys over the field. They got in a shootout with Pomona earlier this year and were able to outlast them. This is
that tells you a lot about Pomona, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is a team, that Charter Oak is going to have to trade points with. Now, Charter Oak went up against a quarterback, and I'm not kidding you, Carson Glazer at San Marino might be the best QB in the division.
Yeah.
I know Cam Brown at Charter Oak said, hey, what are you talking about? My stats are good, and we won the game. But if you can stop, or they didn't stop, but they controlled long enough or had moments where they did put clamps on Glazer and J.P. Shofi and Crowley. If you can do that with San Marino, I know people might scoff at this. I guarantee you can do that to Colony. They're going to need another big performance out of their defense this week because I don't know how you stop Colony all game long. Big Lou said you're not going to. He said you're just going to have to control what they do and hope to outscore them. I don't know, man. This looks like another major shootout coming.
Yeah, well, this has been the division of upsets. When you talk about underdog, the other 3 seeds have been eliminated already. So Colony's the last seed left. And look, Charter Oak, they're scoring a lot of points. I just think Colony is probably primed right now to get upset, Aram. I mean, the game against Glendora last week, that's 41-27, but that was a 27-27 game late in the fourth quarter, and that was a Glendora team without Fink, with other guys that were injured, and they were almost able to pull it off.
I thought Fink played. He was one of 3 QBs that played.
Yeah, but he barely played. He didn't play most of the game, not even a third of the game.
Right.
And their running backs were still battling injuries.
Right.
I just think that Charter Oak is playing so well. This isn't the Charter Oak that we saw in the first 4 or 5 games of the season. I think you got Eccles back healthy. You got Cam Brown. I mean, he's the leading passer in the Valley right now. I think you've got that combination that can score a lot of points. They're going to put points on Colony. But you're right. Charter Oak's defense has given up a lot of points this year to some teams. I mean, they gave up 31 last week to San Marino. It's going to be a shootout. But in the end, I think I like Charter Oak. I like their history. I like them in these big games. Since I've come over to the Tribune and they've been at this level playing for championships, I haven't seen them lose a game, and I don't think I'm going to on Friday night.
Stevie?
It's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a very high-scoring affair, and I think what you said, what Charter Oak, what they faced last week, it's got to help them because, I mean, when you see something like that on film, you think you could stop it, but then when you get on the field, you find out how fast it really is, or how difficult it really is. And the fact they've already faced it on the field, it's got to help them.
I'm sorry, I don't think Colony can do it how San Marino does it. And that might shock people saying you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just look at these receivers. Just look at the QB. The QB, I'd be stunned if he's better than Glazer. And the San Marino receivers were very fast. They run great routes. and they got theirs at times against Charter Oak, but Charter Oak also got its pass rush to Glacier, and San Marino's offensive line had some big dudes on it. I was really impressed by that. The difference is, though, I don't think Charter Oak's going to be able to move the ball on Colony quite as easily as it did on San Marino. And like Eccles, when he got in the open, he was gone. Maybe there's guys on Colony that can run with him and run him down and prevent what was an 80-yard touchdown to being just, a 30-yard gain. That's where I wonder about in this game. But Freddie's right, in these kinds of spots with Big Lou playing at home in this kind of situation, and if he convinces his kids hey, these guys are coming in here with all this NFL talent and no one's giving us a shot, they're the number 1 seed, all this kind of stuff, they have a tendency to jump all over teams in those spots. And if Charter Oak can play with that kind of spirited effort, they're going to the championship game because they do have the skill guys to score points. Cam Brown is looking fantastic. Eccles is looking fantastic. Dominic Farrar calling the plays has just been absolutely outstanding. They got an emerging star in the making in sophomore Brian Castile. I mean, he had some really big catches last week. That kid, I mean, he's adding another element, another big weapon to what they have. This Charter Oak team's not as flashy, not as dominant as any of the past probably 6, 7, or 8 teams that they put out, but they do a lot of things right. And I just think being at home, the special word there, if they can jump on Colony, if they can make this backup QB, think about things more than he has in the last couple of weeks, they're going to win the game. And I think they're going to win the game.
And Charter Oak's a team that they believe that they're supposed to be in championship games. I mean, the players, when you go and you play there, you play because you're expected to go to championships. And when you have coaches who have done it, who've been there, who've experienced this, it's much easier to buy in and believe them and really focus and zero in on what they're saying when you get in these big games. So I just think that's a huge advantage for Charter Oak.
You want to know what this reminds me of to a large degree? I know the similarities aren't all there. This reminds me of the last 2 times Charter Oaks played Chino Hills. Colony being, the Chino Hills type team and Charter Oak being the Charter Oak type team. It just reminds me of that. Maybe they're not more talented top to bottom, but they're going to do more things right in the game. And they're going to play with, this underdog spirit that, is going to lead to big things. And you're just going to have a team, I think, on Friday night that's jacked beyond belief. That, you don't want to visit these guys the next day because they're probably going to sleep for, 24, 48 hours straight. But, man, on Friday night, they could be really in a frenzy. And
Charter Oak's offense is different. Colony probably hasn't faced an offense that is this, I guess, complicated or precise. I mean, Dom Farrar is a great offensive coordinator. I mean, they went in the Inland Division. I mean, one of the things he prides himself on is the way they could spread it around, get the ball to different receivers. Their game planning. And I think something like that is going to bother a team like Colony that probably isn't used to playing a lot of teams who could throw the ball around the park with as much precision as Charter Oak.
Here's the other thing, Freddie. This is going on at Charter Oak this week, and I'm sure it's going on at Los Altos, and I hope it's going on at Bishop Amat. You're having a lot of alums, Lou said, come back and watch practice because they're back from college. They're back visiting family if they're already out of college, and they're coming to practice and they're talking to the players at practice. They're going to be there on Friday night because they're back in town. And that type of stuff on a sideline, I'm not sure Colony has that kind of history that a Charter Oak or an LA or an Amat has.
Those crowds, they make a difference.
And when you have the studs that used to play there standing on the sideline,
a Jason Davis
getting you fired up.
Being a holiday week, I guarantee you Amat's going to go to Corona Centennial, almost an hour away, and have a. It's not going to be. It'll be a visiting stadium, but their crowd is going to neutralize it. It's good for them. It always feels like a home crowd. And look, a lot of those parents, they're from the Inland Empire. A lot of those, there's a lot of Chino Hills guys, so that's an easy drive down the 91 to get to Corona.
It's not just that. You would think Amat would have these stud players from the past also attending practices this week and telling the guys, hey, man, you're on the verge of doing something special. We've done it. You guys are going to do it. Here's what's going to happen and this and that. And it works, Fred. So, when you have what an LA has or a CO has or an Amat has, it's a big edge in these situations, and that's how they all seem to find their way back into it. So, Do we all pick Charter Oak?
I think we've all got Charter Oak Los Altos playing for the championship next week, which would be epic. But don't discount it. We're not trying to discount Bonita.
No, we're not.
It's just that sounds epic. Charter Oak Los Altos in the championship.
It would not be ruined if Bonita was there.
Oh, no,
and
not
even
at
if it
all.
was Bonita Colony, it's still a great thing.
Yeah.
And we hope that Medrano can get that title that Bonita, thought really was theirs in 2000.
Well, they had it.
Madrano would be the first former Tribune part-time sports writer to win a CI championship as a football coach. He would be the first one. It says a lot about the writers that come through here.
Okay,
Brian Goff is the only guy on our staff. He works on our desk. Who's won a CI championship as a player.
Right, that's right. He shows us the ring. Mid-Valley Division now. 2 locals going against the top 2 seeds. Paraclete is visiting Northview at San Dimas High, 7:30 on Friday night. Sierra Canyon going to Pomona, 7:30 on Friday night. At least we think it's 7:30. No one's told us different yet. Let's start with Paraclete, Northview. Obviously, you look at Northview's record; it's a very sexy 11-1. Paraclete 9-3. Paraclete was in the finals last year. They've given a great account of themselves in this division in the past. They're the number 1 seed. They have this stud, Melquise Stovall. They have all these great things going for it, but the thing is that they're going to play a Northview team that prides itself on playing the physical, ground game type of game, and they're going to be at home. Northview avoids the drive to Lancaster or Antelope Valley College. A lot of things going for Northview in this spot, and this is going to be a team that has to do what we just talked about. Be in a frenzy, jump on the opponent right away if they're going to have a shot in this game. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think the good thing for Northview is they're playing a Paraclete team that hasn't been tested at all. I mean, I kind of jokingly called this the group of death.
Well, it's like Sierra Canyon,
I said to get to to get to the semifinals. I'm talking about in this division.
Oh, in the playoffs.
They had to beat Bassett and Azusa, and they won 44-0 and 63-0.
Yeah.
So they haven't been in any kind of playoff football games. Northview is going to give them a playoff game, and Northview is going to do it at San Dimas High School. That's going to be a home game for them. And I think they've been waiting for a game like this. I think they know that there are a lot of people doubting them out there, figuring, they can get to this point, but this is where it ends. And they're a hard-nosed, tough group of kids that I think are going to be up to this challenge. And they may not win it, Aram. I originally, at the beginning of the year, picked them to get to the final. I went back a little bit this week, and I'm going to pick Paraclete just because, Paraclete, what they did, they did beat Sierra Canyon. They are winning these games easy, even though, Bassett and Azusa, they're not the worst teams in the world. They're certainly not pushovers, but they made them look like total pushovers. I'm not sure Northview would have beaten those teams 44-0 and 63-0. But I like Northview's chances in this game. I know that they're going to have a lot of fight. I think they're going to be in it. But I think Paraclete, especially after losing to San Dimas in the championship last year and trying to get back, I think they're going to do enough to beat Northview in a great, great game.
Stevie, these are your boys.
Well, I think it's going to be a close game. I think Northview's going to be ready. This is, I think, the second time they've played Paraclete in the playoffs. They played them in the quarters a few years ago, and Paraclete just had a little bit too much. I think that's going to be the case here. I saw Stovall against Monrovia last year, and Monrovia couldn't stop him.
No.
Just based on the offense that they run. It's a deceptive type of offense.
Yeah.
And when you have an athlete like that, suddenly he's in the open. But Northview has a pretty good rotation of running backs where they can move the ball, and I think they're going to score some points. Elijah Grojava, he was on that Fishman Mott freshman team, and then he transferred over to
he's
Northview.
One of the super softs,
he's
but
one of
he's
the
a junior.
Well, he's
at Northview.
Yeah.
So
nothing wrong with going. Yeah, he's in the semifinals just like them.
He's been great. That's true.
So they have the potential, to score some points.
Right.
I'm just not sure if they can keep up with what Paraclete's going to be able to do. And so I'm picking Paraclete in a close game.
I can't believe it. I'm in agreement with you guys. I think this game is going to be a very good game. I think Paraclete's probably going to pull it out or control it late. But I can't believe we're all agreeing that this is going to be a close game and all this. I mean, it should be. I mean, you look at Northview. I mean, never this season have they been in trouble really, except when they gave up that lead, that big lead they had against La Sierra.
They really should.
So that should tell you something. Northview's very quality. Paraclete's going to field that on Friday night, and an upset I don't think would surprise any of us.
Really. No, it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
No.
The thing we haven't talked about, because Northview up to this point has been able to just pound teams.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Stephen Comstock and what his kind of
Right,
role
right.
is. If those, I mean, that's got to be an added dimension that's
Of
going to
course.
keep them in the game.
Sierra Canyon at Pomona and the other one, man, you want to see a display of athletes. Here you have it. I mean, Sierra Canyon brings tons of guys that can take it to the house on any given play. Obviously, Pomona does the same thing. Freddie, you want to talk about a team that hasn't been touched. Pomona, not in their league, not so far in the playoffs. I mean, they've just looked awesome. I'm starting to feel your vibe here that this team, I don't know if they're going to win the whole division. They just might. But I think they're winning this week. I think they're beating Sierra Canyon.
Yeah, I mean, Sierra Canyon struggled a little bit with Rosemead.
Yeah, they were down 9-0.
That was enough for me to say Pomona
That was
going to
it,
win
yeah.
this game.
You do that against
Friday night.
Pomona, that's
Pomona ain't
21-0.
struggling against Rosemead.
Right.
Pomona ain't, they blew out San Dimas, and they made that look really easy. They
Yeah.
beat them the way San Dimas beat them last year. So they gave back the beatdown.
Right.
And I think they're looking straight forward. They're eyeing a CIF championship. I think they know they've got the horses to do it. Forget that their coach isn't back yet. Forget early in the year when they had to forfeit 2 games. It's all about right now in the moment. And I don't see anything stopping this team. One, they're scoring a lot of points, and you can't score on them. They've got the offense going, the defense going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if
That's
they
a
win
bad
this
combination
game,
for
and it
the
is
opponent.
Paraclete, that's a pretty epic little game in a CIF championship. And a quick little note, if it's Pomona Paraclete, it's Pomona hosting the CIF championship
Huge,
game.
man, when you don't have to go all that way. Yeah, you're right, man. You brought up a good point. They're scoring tons of points, but they're not giving up much, and you got to give downtown Johnny Brown a lot of credit running that defense over there at Pomona. So this team, I mean, the way they look right now, if they win the division, Freddie, it wouldn't shock me. I think they're your original pick to win the division, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that might end up looking like just a beautiful
buying.
ball.
And their running back, what's his name?
Lockett.
Bobo. Lockett. 50 touchdowns this year. Is he the one with 50 touchdowns? I mean, it's unbelievable. We started talking about Player of the Year candidates. I mean, they have a guy stats that are off the chart.
Look, I saw Pomona play Bishop Amat in the first round of the Bonita Air Assault this year, and they beat him. They jumped all over him and beat him. And it was athlete after athlete after athlete. But Bobo had a great game, and so did Lockett, obviously. And their QB looked good. Man, if this team, that really kind of validates that performance that day. Look at Amat now. Obviously, if they play with pads, this,
I mean, don't touch Pomona. Pomona next to Amat. You might be able to make an argument in a couple weeks that Pomona is the number 2 team in the area.
Well, in the Tribune area.
In the Tribune area.
Well, I guess that would be the pass area, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
other than that, it would be Pasadena
consider
Poly.
a team that consider this
about.
a team that banged with Colony and had a chance to beat them. I mean, you can make the argument.
Right. Okay, so now we can talk about the last one, Northwest Division, Pasadena Poly. They are going to Napomo. Napomo up just south of the Arroyo
Saturday
Grande
game at 6
area.
o'clock.
Yes, this is the thing.
It's near Santa Maria, I believe.
Right, just south of there, I believe, in that area, of course. Pasadena Poly, 12-0. They will leave on Friday. They'll spend the night up there. Must be nice. Their 23-man roster, by the way, at Pasadena Poly. They will play Napomo Saturday at 6. Napomo, 65-man roster. Now, Napomo is from the same league, the Northern League, as Morro Bay, which gave Pasadena Poly a very good game in the first round. Poly won 7-0. But when Napomo played Morro Bay, it was only a 15-14 win for Napomo. So you can see, actually, Poly has the better comparative score. Not only did they shut them out, they won by 7. So if Pasadena Poly can acclimate to the trip and be fine, and that doesn't take any toll on them, they're going to be right in this game, especially the way they're playing.
Yeah, it's a good thing they're going up early. I know in the 90s when Monrovia always had to make that trip, they usually left on a Friday, and they got behind, if I remember right, they usually got behind early in those games, and because they were just, it was, to make that 5 on a bus, maybe 6-hour trip, it just gets to you.
Right.
But the fact that Poly's going up early, I kind of like their chances. I think I picked Napomo to win the division in our pre-playoff thing, but I just like the way Poly's playing now.
Look, Prep League teams play for championships. We don't have Rio Hondo Prep. Now we've got Pasadena Poly. And I like teams that play that. I'm going to take defense over offense. Napomo's scored 58 and 56 points, but Poly's only given up 11 points in the playoffs. They did the 7-0 shutout, 20-11 win. And I'm going to go with defense beating offense this week and getting them into the championship game.
So Freddie's got Poly, you've got Napomo.
No,
You switched to Poly?
Yeah, I switched to Poly.
Okay, I'm sticking with Napomo in this game, just because they're the home team, and up there it's difficult to play. Again, Poly, give them credit. 23-man roster, and they're doing this kind of damage. I know it's a smaller schools division, but Napomo has 65 on their roster. So hey. I mean, you got to give Pauly credit where credit's due.
Hope nobody gets sick on Pauly. If anyone comes down with the flu, you may have to forfeit a game.
Right. Okay, so that'll be it. Friday night, everybody, be back. We will have, the Scribble Live going with Tom, Mike the Cousin, the newly married Mike the Cousin.
Yes.
Semifinals edition. So we'll have you covered with all the scores, all the updates live, and then needless to say afterward, we'll have Prep Extra Live, the post-game show. Hopefully we'll have Fred back in here, but who knows from that one. Needless to say, enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Get on the blogs before and after.
Yes, have a great Thanksgiving,
and get to a game on Friday night. And if you do, get there early because remember, everyone's back in town, and their teams, if they're still in the semis, everyone's going to want to go see it.
It's a great Friday because you go watch UCLA beat Stanford at 12:30, then get to your football game.
There we have it.
And now
Enjoy
that
your
the
holiday.
Robledos are married, we got to get Aram and Stevie married here in the next couple of years.
It's coming, man. It's coming.
We'll try.